Today, we will be fixing this. How's it going, guys? Josh here at Traxxas, and today we will be doing some steering modifications and upgrades to our Stampede 4x4 VXL. So in this video, we will be replacing the stock bushings inside the steering bell cranks with bearings. We will also be installing a new front bulkhead, and you will see why we need to install a new one later in the video. And finally, we will be eliminating the servo saver that is incorporated into the Traxxas bell cranks. And we're doing that because it is just way too soft. As you can see, I am turning the tires, but the servo isn't moving. So before we start tearing things apart, I'm just going to show you guys what the problem is right now. So now that the car is flipped over, you can see that when I wiggle the tires, how much play there is. And the cause of that movement is because of the bushings in the steering bell cranks. The bushings actually wore down the posts that the bell cranks sit on. And the posts are attached to the bulkhead right there. And just like we had previously shown you guys in this video, when we turn the tires, the servo actually doesn't move because the servo saver is so weak. So now that all that is out of the way, let's go ahead and start tearing this truck apart. So now that we are down to the bulkhead and the steering bell cranks, we are going to focus our attention on these two parts. And the first thing that we're going to do is remove these two screws holding the steering bell cranks to the bulkhead. After those two screws are removed, you want to make sure that you still have the washers on. Before we slide off the bell cranks, I just want to show you guys how much the bell cranks move on the skid plate. So as you can see, it does move quite a bit. It's not that bad on the other side, but it is pretty significant. Now we are just going to pull the bell cranks off of the bulkhead, set those off to the side. And here you can see just how much the post is wore down on the bulkhead. Those bushings really did chew away the plastic on that post right there, and that is why we are converting them over to bearings. So now let's go ahead and open up the package for the bearings. And inside we get the bearings themselves in a nice case. And we also get a sticker. So now we are going to take out the 4 bushings in the steering blocks and replace them with the bearings. There is a bushing there, right there, and there are 2 on the bottom. Yeah, those aren't gonna fit. So as you can see, the bearings are way too small. They slide out really easily. So we're gonna have to return these and order new ones. Since we can't install the bearings, let's go ahead and start eliminating the servo saver. For this, you will need CA glue or super glue. You'll need one of the tall Traxxas shock spacers. And you will also need some Starbond CA glue accelerator. Now you really don't have to have the Starbond accelerator. However, it will come in very handy when we use the super glue. And I would also have some paper towels on hand. So first, we are going to remove this screw right here. Then you should have 2 parts of the steering bell cranks, and we will not be using this part. We are going to focus on this one. Now we can pop off this bushing right here, set that off to the side, and then we want to pull off this top cap, the spring, this lower piece, and then set this off to the side. Now we are going to clean this piece right here, the top perch, as well as the lower perch. Now that these 3 parts are cleaned off, we are going to set these 2 off to the side, and we are going to remove the bushing on the bottom of this one, just so that we don't accidentally super glue it into place. Next, we need to take our Traxxas shock cap and cut off this little piece right on the end. After you cut off that part of the shock spacer, it should look like this. And now we are going to take our super glue, put some right on this piece right here, on both sides. Slide on the lower portion of the steering assembly. Take our accelerator and spray it on it. Give it about 20 seconds and it should be completely dry. Now that that's dry, we are going to apply super glue to the top portion of the Traxxas shock spacer. And then we want to make sure that the top retainer is centered on the shock spacer. And then we're going to take our Starbond accelerator, spray some of that on, and it should be dry in about 20 seconds. Now that both of these pieces are glued, we can go ahead and open up our new front bulkhead. And install the bushing onto the bottom of that piece right there. Now we can install the next bushing onto the top of that same piece. Put this piece on the left post, and then take our other piece of the bell cranks, put it onto the right side, and then install the screw that we have removed earlier right there. Now that the steering bell cranks are sitting on the bulkhead, you can see that that bushing right there is pretty worn out too. So at this point, there's nothing else that we can do until we get the new bearings. So we will put you guys back on when the bearings arrive. Alright, so it's a day later now and the bearings have just arrived. So now let's go ahead and swap out these bearings for the bushings that are in the steering bell cranks. So now that the bearings are installed onto the bell cranks, we are going to take our front assembly and line up the bulkhead on the bottom, and then install these two screws right here that we removed earlier. Now we can line up the drive shafts into the drive cups, and then install the pin that holds the A-arm in place to the bulkhead on each side. Now we can take the turnbuckles and slide them into the groove in the bell cranks, and then install the screw that hold both of them in. Now we are going to grab our front hinge pin plate, slide that over those two pins, make sure that the curved side is facing up, and then reinstall the screw that holds that in place. Next we are going to grab the bottom skid plate, slide that on, and then install the 5 screws that hold that in place. Grab the 2 screws and the 2 washers so that we can secure the bell cranks to the bulkhead, and the screws go right here. Now we are going to take our front body mount and install the 2 screws that hold that in place. Now that the body mounts are installed, we are going to take our center drive line and install the grub screw that holds that in place to the output of the pinion gear. Now it's time to install the front assembly onto the chassis. But first we need to grab this piece that we super glued right here to go in place of the servo saver spring. And we're just going to slide this right on top of the bell cranks in that position. Now we can take the chassis and slide the center drive line into the center, line everything up, and then install the 4 screws that hold it to the front. Now that the front assembly is attached to the chassis, we need to install 1 more screw that holds the steering link onto the bell cranks right there. And now we are done with this steering modification. However, there's still one more thing that we would like to do, so let's go ahead and talk about that right now. So since we eliminated the servo saver spring integrated into the steering bell cranks, our servo is more prone to getting burned out. So to extend the life of the servo and to protect it, we are going to replace the servo horn. And we're going to replace it with this servo horn right here. This servo horn has an integrated servo saver which will protect the servo. This servo saver was actually off of one of our old Stampede 2-wheel drives. And if you have a Stampede 2-wheel drive, you will know that there are mounting holes for the turnbuckles integrated in the servo saver. But we actually cut those mounting holes off so that hopefully the servo saver will fit in place of that servo horn. To install the servo horn, we need to remove these 2 screws right here. After those 2 screws are removed, we can pull off the old servo horn. Now we need to flip the car over and plug in a battery. And once the battery is plugged in, we can turn on our remote and the ESC. And we want to center our servo using this dial right here. Once it's centered, you can turn off the remote, then the ESC, and unplug your battery. Now we can turn the car back over so that we can install the servo saver horn. However, the spline count on the servo saver and the servo is different. So we will have to use one of these adapters right here to go on the back of the servo saver, so that way it will fit onto the servo. And when you install the servo saver onto the servo, you want to make sure that it is about in that position. Then after that, you want to install these two screws. And now we are done installing the servo saver horn. And now that we've upgraded the steering a little bit, the bell cranks do not wiggle anymore and the steering isn't sloppy. So the modifications and upgrades that we did today on our Stampede 4x4 will definitely improve the performance, and we will actually be able to turn. At this time, we would like to invite you guys over to check out our website. Click the link down below in the description and it will take you there, where we have reviews on all of our RC cars, including our Stampede 4x4 and other ones that we have featured on the channel. There you can also buy Trax RC merch and learn general information about us and our channel. We are also adding 2 new pages to our website. One of them is called RC News and the other one is the Best RCs. On the RC News page, you will find some of the latest news topics that we've come up with, such as like new releases and other things like that. And on the Best RCs page, you can click a link on the type of RC that you are looking for and it will take you to that category. For example, if you are looking at a 4S monster truck, then you could click on the link that says 4S monster truck and it will scroll you down the page to where we had that category, and it will show you all the RCs that are 4S capable that we think are the best. If you guys do check out our website, please give us feedback on it, as we want to improve it in any way that we can. Alright guys, so that is it for this video. We do have a few more upgrades coming for our Stampede 4x4, and if you guys enjoyed this video, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time on Trax RC.